and every once in a while this. So let's talk about the general wars. Award-winning journalist and war correspondent Lara Logan. She discussed how retired generals who are speaking out against President Trump are either complicit with or waging an information warfare campaign against him in an interview this last Wednesday. Logan reminded listeners of the Russian collusion narrative and how many officials from the Justice Department, Director of the National Intelligence, Central Intelligence Agency, the NSA, and other agencies worked together to push the idea that the Trump campaign colluded with Russia during the 2016 election. Now, you could see that the story that they try to keep putting forward is that Trump is inept, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's in over his head. Well, I have news for you. Any politician that has sat in that position has been in over his head within 8 hours and never got his feet, never got anything done. They just did and showed up and said whatever the staff wanted them to say at a given moment. Trump hasn't done that. Well, he's probably done that and much more, much more. In fact, I think that Trump has done better with less than all the other presidents combined. We've heard General Mattis, you remember Mad Dog Mattis, General McMaster, he was in there as well. John Kelly, one after another after another. You can name them, and strangely enough, it's the same people standing up now taking shots at the president. The same people. So they were silent then, and they sure as hell have a lot to say now, don't they? She added. Logan said many of those waging the information warfare campaign are doing so from liberal think tanks such as Brookings Institute. She noted that retired Marine General John Allen, who worked in the Obama administration as a special envoy and endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016, is heading one of those think tanks. He's the head of a think tank now that is constantly taking shots and waging information warfare against the president for the election. And you can map it out. New America is one of the organizations, the Lincoln Project. That's a whole bunch of Republicans who are running attack ads and pushing out a constant stream of anti-Trump propaganda. Logan said many of those waging the campaign are connected with General Stanley McChrystal. You know, the McChrystal Group, right? This is the guy that we spoke about 3 or 4 weeks ago that has access to proprietary DARPA software. And the DARPA software was developed to conduct a systematic hack and what's called an information redirect or an information autoresponder to any enemy broadcasts that have to do with certain subjects. So if Trump tweets something or says something, this software automatically, like within seconds, utilizes hundreds of thousands of bot accounts. You know what a bot account is? These are social media addresses that don't belong to people. They belong to a computer. They might have 6 or 7 or 10 followers, but there's no picture, there's no profile, there's no address, there's no email. It's just a bot. And what happens is the cyber software gets the tweet, here's the press conference or whatever, and immediately these bots go to work within seconds, generating tens of thousands of negative comments. I have been watching Twitter, and I've watched early in the morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, you'll see President Trump post for the first time. He'll still tweet something. Well, he tweets that out, and I respond within, maybe 25 seconds. 25 seconds at the most, and respond back, either retweet or reply or like or something like that. But by the time I read it, it already has like 15,000 replies, 21,000 retweets, and that's just not possible. First of all, I'm on Eastern time. Nobody is freaking up in the country at 4:45 in the morning. Just the Eastern Seaboard people. And they're not all just waiting right there on Trump's Twitter feed. But these bots do. That's what the software does. That's what McChrystal's running. And he's running an anti-president, anti-government disinformation program. And he runs an organization called Defeat Disinfo. It is actually a Democrat super PAC. And they want you to think that they're defeating disinformation, but actually what they're doing is they're propagating it. They're creating it. They're making propaganda. They don't even hide it. They don't even hide it. Logan also said journalists were either stupid or complicit. Well, that may be true most of the time. We're not here at the America Free Radio studios, and we're coming to you live from an undisclosed location for a reason. And we broadcast live over the Truth Frequency Radio Network because this is where the truth freaks hang out. And then we also do YouTube Live for those people that just want to hang out and make comments and try to interact with each other while the program's going on. Good to see you, Alex. Yes, Alex says he's been accused of being a bot, but you are a bot, Alex. I'm kidding. You're not a bot. You're a human being, and I've spoken to you on the phone, and I know you in person. So, no, you're not a bot. Yes, Tom Hanks not feeling too good today. I'm heartbroken. Good to see you out there, Mona, Festus. Patco Incorporated. That's a new one. That's a new one. Volume good on my phone. Cool, man. Thanks very much. Piper, good to see you out there. Wealthy Healings. Very nice to see you out there. Good, good, good. Anyway, we want to make the point here that these think tanks are not all good. In fact, if you've ever watched Nickelodeon when you were a kid or Sesame Street, one of the things you learn is how Bill is written. You know, it's a Bill singing a song. You know, kind of like today's show is brought to you by the letter B. Anyway, the point is that that's not the way bills are written anymore. A bill used to be 5, 6, 7 pages. It said, we want to write a law that has to do with this. It would pass the Congress. It would go to the Senate. The Senate would either pass it or review it or amend it, send it back to Congress to go to committee. Committee would say, you know, that's not a bad idea. And if we're going to get this passed, we're going to make some kind of compromise. So here we go. It goes off to the president. The president looks at it and says, hell no, I'm not signing this. And he vetoes it. Or he says, not bad, good job, guys. And he signs it into law. That's not the way it's done anymore. The way it's done now is the laws, the bills are gigantic. They're called omnibus bills. They're huge, 1,000 to 6,000 pages. That's like, you know, how many 1,000-page books have you read lately? And you're able to take a 50-question essay exam at the end of it. None of you, probably. None of you. The point is that these bills are written in think tanks. They're written in these think tanks like Brookings Institute, Defeat Disinfo, other think tanks like that. They get huge amounts of money from lobbyists and even foreign governments and people like George Soros and Steyer and Bloomberg and other billionaires that want to influence American policy. And so once these giant documents are built, let's throw this in there. We know the president wants defense, so let's throw this in there. Let's throw this in there. You see, the president doesn't have line item veto. He can't say, I don't like page 87. I don't like pages 202 through 350, and I'm not signing pages, 800 through 900. He can't do that. What he has to do is say, I've got to have this defense bill, or my guys are going to be without, clean underwear out there. We've got to have this funding. And so what Congress, what these think tanks do is they hold the president hostage and the nation hostage by putting the stuff they want into this giant, 1,000, 6,000, 8,000 page book. And they send that not to Congress. No. They send it to the Speaker of the House. Yeah. And what the Speaker of the House does is she pulls her executives together, which are basically sycophants in the Congress, and she or he says this is going to pass. And so we're going to give lawmakers 12 hours. All right, let's be liberal. Let's give them 24 hours to read it, and in the 13th hour we're going to have a vote, and we have to pass this law. And that's the way it's done. Now, once it passes Congress, then it goes to the Senate. The Senate tries to pick it apart, but hey, if we're running out of money, you got to start continuing resolutions to get money going and everything. You know, you saw that, right? For years and years and years, we went through this government shutdown after government shutdown. The president, you know, playing brinksmanship with Congress, saying, "Well, I'm not signing this thing because it's full of pork." And Congress saying, "Let's take a break. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away." As soon as the time limit is up, and once we're able to do that, we'll do that. We'll bring that back on, and we won't get those hits on on copyright violation. It took me about 9 hours to remix 3 hours of audio last Sunday so that you could enjoy the program on YouTube, and I could continue to get monetized. Terrible thing, but that's one of the things we have to live with live radio. So we'll bring the studio back here in about 30 seconds, and then we'll have the intro music for the bottom of the hour. I'm so glad that you all hang with me each Sunday on YouTube Live. It's an amazing platform that we can simulcast on audio on tfrlive.com, and we can simulcast on YouTube and get out there to everyone. So hopefully you all enjoy it, and we'll continue to bring it to you. Okay, I'm going to bring the studio back in. Except I'm not here in the studio. Looks like Skype is not functioning the way it's supposed to be functioning. I'm not hearing any intro music. Ha ha ha. You gotta love Skype. It's so good. So rich. I don't know what you're hearing on YouTube right now. Wow. Unbelievable. And if I hang up, it's not going to let me back in. Well, wow, it's one technical issue after another tonight. Hopefully I just have a good attitude about it. All right, I'm going to hang up from all them, and we will start the call over again. How about that? We'll just do it that another way, because it wasn't working. It's just lovely, lovely how great we are. All right, here we go. Okay, now we're back in live with the studio, and then we will add the call-in board. All right, call-in board is in, so we're live again. All right, hopefully the TFR chat room can hear me okay. Maybe they'll respond, and should be good sound there. I want to do a little bit of a Hollow Earth update. And the Hollow Earth update is contributed by Becky Ferraya. She does a really, really good job with this article, and I'm going to use most of her stuff. It's very well done. Kind of goes along with if you have seen my live Hollow Earth presentation, or you've seen my YouTubes on Hollow Earth, you will have enjoyed this very similar information. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm working on the volume there. I've got it up as high as it'll go, and I usually have to you know, bring it down a little bit in the OBS, but I have all the filters off and everything is wide open in this. So I'm not exactly sure why it is so quiet for you all on YouTube, but I'm going to do my best to try to raise the volume out there. Let's see if I can bring this up a little bit more. I'm going to bring this up to, let's see if that'll raise the volume a little bit. We'll just bring that up. Nope, that seems to be going the other way for some reason. Let's see. All right. Is that a little bit better? That should be a little bit louder out there. I boosted it 10. We'll see what that does. Just let me know how that works out in in the chat room of YouTube. Scientists have discovered a vast structure made of dense material occupying the boundary between Earth's liquid outer core and the lower mantle, a zone some 3,000 kilometers beneath our feet. That is about pretty close to 2,000 miles, 1,860 miles. The researchers used a machine learning algorithm that was originally developed to analyze distant galaxies. And they used it to probe the mysterious phenomenon occurring deep within our own planet, according to a paper published on Thursday in Science. One of these enormous anomalies, located deep under the Marquesas Islands, had never been detected before, while another structure beneath Hawaii was found to be much larger than previously estimated. Scientists led by Do-yeon Kim, a seismologist and postdoctoral fellow at the University of Maryland, fed seismograms captured from hundreds of earthquakes that occurred between 1990 and 2018 into an algorithm called Sequencer. Now, the Sequencer algorithm is pretty cool. Seismological studies tend to focus on relatively small data sets of regional earthquake activity. And that's typically what they do. They wait for a really, really strong earthquake. And then when a strong earthquake happens, they hurry up and take all their measurements. And the issue is that these things typically come and go very quickly. The earthquake happens, and then a few minutes later, it's over with. And then if they didn't get the measurements, they have to wait for the next, big earthquake. While seismologists, tend to study these, they want larger data sets because these algorithms work better when they have lots more data to work with. So the sequencer allowed Kim and his colleagues to analyze 7,000 measurements of earthquakes. And each one of these measurements had a magnitude over 6.5. Now that really shook the subterranean world, let me tell you, over the past 3 decades. And it really shook the seismologists because now they have very high quality data from from a very high number of very strong earthquakes. Earthquakes create seismic waves. They travel through the Earth's interior, where they become scattered and distorted by structures deep inside our planet. Now, that is a very powerful CAT scan of the Earth, let me tell you. The vibrations go all the way through and around the planet. These warped patterns are captured in seismograms. These are records that are made of these vibrations. Then they're picked up by microphones. They're called accelerometers. They sit all over the planet. When these vibrations come through, they pick up the vibration and they record it. And the timing difference between these is how they're able to make the map. So it enabled the scientists to capture rare glimpses of the Earth's inaccessible underworld. The team focused on seismograms produced by shear waves that travel along the boundary between Earth's core and the lower portion of the mantle that borders it. These waves are the lower secondary waves that follow the initial tremors made by the earthquakes, and they're called primary waves. And they generally produce clearer signals. Normally, they like to use the S waves because they're larger in amplitude and the data is more or less clean. And that's because they haven't had to jam their way through lots and lots of strata. They more or less propagate along the surface from 75 to 200 miles deep. The P waves, these primary waves are more precise, but they're more difficult to measure. In particular, the team looked at the shear waves diffracting along the core mantle boundary because it diffracts along that surface. It's a great phase to look at these tiny structures on top of the core mantle boundary. They're like mountains underneath the surface. So when the shear waves hit these structures, they produce a type of echo-like signature known as a post-cursor. These echoes indicate the presence of anomalies deep inside the Earth, called ultra-low velocity zones, which are dense patches on the core mantle boundary. Now, nobody knows exactly how these low velocity zones are formed or what they're made of, but it's clear that they have diameters about 100 kilometers and that they are dense enough to slow down the waves that pass through them. They could be things like water. It could be things like molten rock. Not going to propagate vibrations very well because of the damping effect of the liquid qualities of those rocks or those areas. By running thousands of seismograms through this algorithm called sequencer, Kim and his colleagues found that the strongest post-cursor signals in their dataset emanate from under Hawaii and the Marquesas Islands. This is tantalizing evidence of the existence of two mega ultra low velocity zones that stretch for about 1,000 kilometers or more. That is huge. While the Hawaiian structure has been partially mapped out in previous studies, Kim's team found that its dimensions are a whole lot larger than expected. Meanwhile, the mega ultra low velocity zone detected under the Marquesas Islands represents a previously unidentified localized wave speed anomaly. They are intriguing structures, not only due to their size. Hang on one second. Oh, everything's sounding good. Everything's doing well. Okay. This is he says it's very interesting because this might indicate that these mega ULVZs are special and may host primitive geochemical structures that have been relatively unmixed since early Earth history. The new study demonstrates the applications of algorithms like sequencer, which use a special type of process called unsupervised learning. That sounds like me. In processing complex data sets like those found in astronomy, seismology, and countless other scientific fields, as opposed to supervised learning algorithms, which are trained to sort information based on known labels. Unsupervised algorithms are designed to find insights in unlabeled data sets. When you use a sequencer, what it actually does is find additional information hidden behind this data set. It looks for patterns between the data sets. So what we did here is find an optimal arrangement in the data set itself. We're not actually altering the data set, which is what they do with climatology. We're not doing anything but just rearranging and finding this optimal arrangement. That's what sequencer does. The team plans to continue developing this novel way of peering into the Earth by examining higher frequency waves that might yield finer details about the enigmatic structures on the core mantle boundary. And that's what I initially did with ground probing radar in 1983. I had it so well developed that by the mid-90s, I could detect oil and gas structures up to 3,000 feet deep within 12 inches, and I could tell you how thick they were and what the porosity of that formation was. These higher frequencies do give you a lot more detail. We're hoping that sequencer will be able to basically let us use all these diverse data sets and bring them together to look for these lower mantle structures systematically. This is our vision going forward, to answer more questions about the lower mantle in general. Great story and great information. Really like that detail. So everything should be sounding good everywhere. I will check the caller board just to make sure we don't have anybody hanging out. Nope, everything's good there. Just let me give a quick view at the TFR chat room. Everything is going well there. Thanks, Rebecca. Good to hear that. Lucky, good to see you there. Thanks for keeping up with everything. She's just nonstop, so dedicated. What a producer. Wow. So I want to change gears a little bit here. BLM. And I'm not talking about the Bureau of Land Management. As citizens around the U.S. protest police brutality, and by the way, I'm with you on that, and racial inequalities, their rallying cry has been the slogan, Of course, you've heard it a gazillion times, Black Lives Matter, right? But we've kind of missed the larger agenda. And that's what I kind of wanted to bring to your attention. The Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation is a largely decentralized international organization listing. I could pull up the other chat there. Now we can see it. Yeah, Piper says it looks good. Everything's fine. What are we pointing out? I saw that. Yes. Moverling is missed last Sunday, so he's coming off the hip this time. He's made not one, but two contributions in the top chat of $50. And I just want to reach out to Moverling and make sure that the sound level is okay for you now. If not, I will add a little bit more to it. Gang of Four says sound on YouTube is good. Sound on TFR is good. Both of those are thumbs up, right? They're not. Okay, yeah. And Piper says it sounds good too. Ray, good to see you out there. Ray is out there. How big is the ocean underneath us? According to Washington University, this would be Dr. Y. Sessions' group, they did a similar thing on the finished seismograms themselves. They didn't go take new measurements. They went through all the previous measurements that had been done, and they crunched 600,000 of those seismograms. And what they came up with was the location of an ocean that was the size of the Arctic Ocean. The Arctic Ocean's pretty big. It's like, it's the third largest ocean in the world. It covers the entire northern Arctic Circle all the way down to San Josef Island. So it's all the way from Canada to Russia. It's a giant ocean. An ocean that size, and where it was located is underneath the Atlantic Ocean, underneath the crust of the Atlantic Ocean. So if you look at the damping waves underneath the crust, we're talking about 800 to 900 miles, not kilometers, miles beneath the Atlantic Ocean. We see these damping waves from another ocean. So that's a great question. And the answer is that it is the size of the Arctic Ocean. Oh, you missed the Religion of Peace report, Alan. Well, I could give it again right now. We were having a little difficulty with the sound at the beginning, so I go with that. I was blessed with the long version of the Windows update today. You know, the one where you turn the computer on and the screen is blue and it says, "We're updating your Windows. This may take a while." It did. I have a fast computer and a fast internet connection, and it took about 35 minutes for this download to come in. So then it said, okay, hang on while we make these updates to your computer. It took that long for them to come in. Now let's make the updates. And that took about another 40 minutes today. So by the time it was done, all these settings were screwed up. They were hosed. So, the first part of the program, I've been dealing with those modifications. The Religion of Peace report. In the last 7 days, the Religion of Peace conducted 33 attacks. In these 33 attacks, they killed 175 innocent people. They injured 95 innocent people. They conducted 3 suicide blasts, and they spread their mayhem across 10 countries. And by the way, I've read some of the stories on some of these attacks. They're gruesome, absolutely gruesome. And all of this brought to you by the Religion of Peace. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about Black Lives Matter because I want to make sure that you understand kind of what we're dealing with here. It's a global network foundation. It's decentralized. It's listing regional chapters instead of a particular leader. And it was founded by 3 women, 2 of whom identify as queer. That would be Patrice Kahn Cullors, Opal Tometi, and Alicia Garza. On its What We Believe page, this is what I found. BLM describes itself as a movement to fight for freedom, liberation, and justice. But its definition of those terms includes radical changes to basic societal norms. For instance, let me share this with you. The organization's What We Believe page. It asserts that these goals can only be achieved through the disruption of the Western prescribed nuclear family structure. You understand what that means? That means that the organization believes that their goals can only be accomplished by smashing the American family. It's on their website. I'm just bringing you what it says. I quote, I'm going to quote, "We disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement," close quote, the site declares, and I quote again, "by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable." The word fathers is deliberately excluded, and it's replaced by gender-neutral parents, despite already naming mothers as pillars of the family. The statement goes on to denigrate male influence on the family as oppressive. No teaching of baseball, no teaching of hunting, no teaching of, the things that men teach boys. No Boy Scouts, that's for damn sure. We build a space that affirms black women and is free from sexism, misogyny, and environments in which men are centered. The group says calling single mothers double shifts of working and parenting a patriarchal practice. On a page describing the group's herstory, that's spelled H-E-R-S for hers, Tory, BLM writes that part of the reason for its emphasis on intersectional sexual politics is that black liberation movements have historically overemphasized the voice and the role of straight men. I see. Black liberation movements in this country have created room, space, and leadership mostly for black heterosexual cisgender men, leaving women, queer, and transgender people and others either out of the movement or in the background to move the work forward with little or no recognition. As a network, we have always recognized the need to center the leadership of women and queer and trans people. As such, the What We Believe statement explicitly endorses the LGBTQM subversion of biological sex. We foster a queer-affirming network, the creed states. When we gather, we do so with the intention of, I can't say that on the radio. Let me slide down here a little bit more. In contrast, some black leaders who promote racial unity assert that black communities continue to struggle because of the so-called progressive social policies that have incentivized single mother families. Reverend Bill Owens, president of the Coalition of African American Pastors, told the news organization recently, one of the primary reasons that racial tensions still exist is because of policies that have torn apart the fabric of black families. And he is exactly correct. We went from about 90% of black families having a father at home to about 10% of black families having a father at home. 19% of black families have what is called a traditional family structure. The rest are all single mothers. More black babies are aborted every year than are born alive. We seriously have a problem with the black family structure. We have seen decades of policies that help destroy the black family and the black community. And that's true. And I have to tell you that these policies came from our government. That's what they were designed to do, I think, is break apart the black family. And it has worked. The organization is directly linked to the Democrat Party through a sort of donation clearinghouse. And that clearinghouse is called Act Blue. When donating to BLM, on the website. Now, you could do it other ways, but when you donate to BLM on the BLM website, you are redirected to a site called Act Blue. The flow of hundreds of millions of dollars has never even once been audited. It pays no taxes, and there is 0.0 evidence that even $1 of that money being spent to improve the inner cities, which have been the Democrat plantation for 100 years, where votes are grown for the Democrat Party. The link on the Black Lives Matter website, in fact, does take you to the Act Blue fundraising platform, where Black Lives Matter fundraises to, quote, end state-sanctioned violence, liberate black people, and end white supremacy forever. Other violence is not discouraged, only the state-sanctioned violence. Okay? To date, they have received nearly, and this is going to blow your mind, they have received nearly $500 million. $500 million. What has been funded are riots, vandalism, burning, looting, and bail money for those arrested. But that is not entirely true. Here are the facts from the fact checkers themselves. I'm going to give them to you, less the propaganda, just the facts. You ready? Social media users are circulating posts that suggest that unclaimed, which merely means undirected, donations that arrive from the Black Lives Matter landing page will eventually go toward Democrat candidates. The video and posts online base their claim on an Act Blue Charities link that appears on the Black Lives Matter website. By their own written admission, the Act Blue Charities link is there to process donations for Black Lives Matter. An Act Blue spokesperson confirmed to the Associated Press in an email. That's as good as a real document, with real writing, words and sentences and everything. Then when donating on an Act Blue or Act Blue Charities page, the donation is earmarked for the group on the form and goes directly to the receiving campaign or entity. The earmarking does not take place automatically from the landing page. The landing page would be the Black Lives Matter page. The drop-down menu for various targets for the donor are listed. But studies show that over half of the visitors do not know about the drop-down menu. They assume the donation goes according to their wishes. Now, how many of you assume the donation goes directly where you want? For instance, how many of you assume that the money you pay for lottery tickets actually goes to fund education? When in fact, nearly none of the money goes to education. It merely replaces a budget line item so they can spend the original money somewhere else, such as pensions or increases in administrative salaries. Makes sense to me. A video uploaded to Twitter with more than 1 million views opens with, let's take a quick break. How about that? We'll be right back after this. Don't go away. More X Squared Radio right after this. Wow. So great to have you here tonight. I appreciate all of you hanging out with me. We've had the absolute best tech issues we've had in a long time tonight. Windows updates, they're so much fun. You can't believe it. Just can't believe it. I'm continuing on with the Black Lives Matter website analysis here. the Center for Responsive Politics. This is an interesting analysis here. The Center for Responsive Politics addressed the discovery of the Act Blue money laundering scheme, not in an official statement. And that kind of blows my mind a little bit. Why wouldn't they come out and make an official statement on this? They didn't do it. What they did, it can't be documented. It can't be sued this way. They did it on Twitter. The center officially claimed that Act Blue, a fundraising platform used by Democrats and progressives, is very similar to a platform used to raise money by Republicans that's called Win Red. In point of fact, all donations made to conservative groups, candidates, and committees go directly to those entities and is audited and publicly reported on a quarterly basis. And that is in compliance with the Federal Election Commission. Now, I'm going to quote, "A donation to BLM through Act Blue just goes to BLM, not any other group." That's what the tweet said. Now, mind you, this is a tweet. This is not an official document. It's not on their website. It's not actually stated. And the conditions, it's not there either. It's not in their terms and conditions, not in their in a public statement. The Democrat National Committee also told the AP that the DNC only receives donations made through Act Blue if and only if they are explicitly made out to the DNC. This is not Act Blue's stated position, actually, nor has it been verified by auditors or by any of the thousands of investigators who are attempting to trace the flow of money every single day. Now, surprisingly, when we look at the founders of BLM, Ms. Scales did offer a tepid condemnation of violent protests, looting of businesses, and property destruction in protests around the country. I'm going to quote and listen carefully to the words, okay? Because some people hear one thing and some people hear another thing. I think I have the smartest chat room on earth, and I think you're going to pick this up pretty quickly. I quote, "We advocate for peaceful protests in every instance and do not condone looting or destruction of any kind," close quote. And then she wrote this: "We also believe violations of property should never be equated with violations of human life." This answer is a marked departure from a quote shared by the organization in 2014, blaming the riots in Ferguson, Missouri on racist white folks, close quote. BLM's social media pages have remained silent on the violence seen in this year's demonstrations. Silence, I'm afraid, is consent, Ms. Scales. By the way, 0.0% of the BLM millions is used to compensate the owners of minority businesses who were prospering under Donald Trump's economy that were specifically targeted and destroyed during BLM-sponsored protests and riots. Yeah, that's the most frustrating thing to see. "We're calling for a divestment in police in order to support more teachers, mental health and restorative services, and community resilience departments, social workers, and government resource liaisons," Scales wrote on Reddit. "Modern-day policing institutions have their roots in slave catching. These systems were created to hunt, maim, and kill black people and are the result of centuries-old anti-black attitudes codified into law. Simply put, the criminal justice system in this country, including law enforcement and incarceration, is actually working the way it is intended to," close quote. Actually, the modern police structure comes from New York, where Irish immigrants made up most of the officers who cleaned up gangs, ghettos, and human trafficking operations from the mid-19th century. It has absolutely nothing to do with black people. So just I'll bring you a little bit more out because anytime you have a nearly $1 billion organization that has been set up and is taking money from millions of donors and maybe a few dozen very large unknown donors and applying it to what exactly are they applying the money to again? No, it's not listed on the website. I mean, scholarships would be a good thing, huh? I mean, with that amount of money, you could build your own university, hire your own professors, right? No, it's not used to rebuild any of the black businesses that are burned down or smashed or looted. Nope, none of that. Exactly where does the money go? Just like your education lottery, it doesn't go to buy books. It doesn't go to buy pencils. No, you buy that at the beginning of each year. You're the one that has to put up the $100 to buy the stuff for your kid for that semester. That doesn't come from the lottery. $20,000 a year, if you want to know. $20,000 a year per student is what the schools receive to educate your kid. And the answer is around $18,000 if you wanted to put your kid in one of the top private schools in your area. $18,000 a year. What would you do? What would you do? Interesting, isn't it? The idea of reparations to black people to compensate them for the evils of slavery 200 years ago is easy to talk about, and it's impossible to implement. Let me give you an example. UCLA professor Gordon Klein has been placed on leave after suggesting a request to postpone a final exam for black students in response to the death of George Floyd. Over 20,000 people have signed a petition that calls for UCLA to fire Klein. When Klein was asked to postpone black students' exams, he replied by quoting Dr. Martin Luther King. Remember that Martin Luther King famously said that people should not be evaluated based on the color of their skin. Do you think that your request would run afoul of Martin Luther King's admonition? According to the report by NBC News, the UCLA accounting lecturer Gordon Klein has been placed on leave in response to a student campaign that has called for his termination. Klein, who has been teaching at UCLA for 39 years, earned the ire of some members of the UCLA community when he pushed back against the request to postpone the final exams in his accounting courses, but only for black students. Students and faculty and institutions, including UC San Diego, have argued that universities and colleges should offer universal passing grades only to black students in response to the death of George Floyd. Thanks for your suggestion in your email below, and I will give black students special treatment given the tragedy in Minnesota, Klein wrote in an email to students. Do you know the names of the classmates that are black? How can I identify them since we've been having online classes only? Are there any students that may be of mixed parentage, such as half black, half Asian? What do you suggest I do with respect to them? A full concession or just half? Remember that Martin Luther King famously said, blah, blah, blah. Okay, students published a petition last week in which they called on UCLA to fire him. We ask for your support now in holding Professor Klein to the same ethical standards he claims to be essential to a holistic and inclusive educational experience, which is what he owes to his students as an educational leader. The petition reads, we, the students, refuse to support Gordon Klein any further and demand to see his employment terminated as soon as possible. Yeah. The idea of reparations, it sounds great at first. I mean, the idea that we could end racism in America by simply writing a single check, divided equally among all black people, is all too easy. You know, and I know that would not function as designed. First of all, who gets the check? What happens to millions of Africans that get on planes and boats and sail here just before the lines form for the checks? That's an interesting question. What happens to millions of people who are less than 50% black? What happens to dark-skinned blacks compared to mocha people, compared to people who could pass for a tan white person? Is Halle Berry getting a check? Oprah? Beyonce? I didn't think so. It would likely be means tested, pigment tested, and generation tested. There would be fights. There would be riots. Let's not even begin to talk about how long lottery winnings last if they're mismanaged. If you think the riots are bad now, wait until you see the ones caused by the overdraft fees. I'm just saying. Yes, and Alexander makes a very good point. We already paid that debt in blood in the Civil War. I think 1 million dead Americans is a high enough price for emancipation in anybody's book. All right, a little bit about President Trump. I have to do this. I want to do this because President Trump has told the Hague is the World Court, International Court, he's told them to leave Americans alone. President Trump on Thursday announced a crackdown on the behavior of the International Criminal Court based on the Hague, which repeatedly has considered the prosecution of U.S. forces for their actions in war-torn Afghanistan. He issued an executive order that authorizes sanctions against any individual who is involved in such an investigation into those activities, and it orders Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, in consultation with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, to block any assets in the United States of ICC members involved in any such investigation. A statement from the White House said, "It's part of the president's commitment to protecting American service members and defending national sovereignty of the United States." I totally agree with this. The International Court has no business bringing cases against American citizens. Congress has also had its concerns and in 2002 enacted the American Service Members Protection Act, which rejected the ICC's overbroad, non-consensual assertions of jurisdiction. The president said, "While the United States remains committed to the accountability and the peaceful cultivation of international order, the ICC and parties to the Rome Statute must respect the decisions of the United States and other countries not to subject their personnel to the ICC's jurisdiction." I am absolutely, positively sure that Vladimir Putin has the same position. Not going to let the ICC prosecute Russians. Not going to happen. Okay? All right. Let's see. We're going to have Pete Rivera come on at 10 o'clock. He's going to talk about Revel Nation. That should be very interesting, 10 to 10:30. In the meantime, I want to talk about, let's see how much time we have in this segment. Oh, we have 12 minutes, plenty of time. Obamagate, the root of the problem. Could be very interesting. I have a caller hanging out. Let's see. Let's go ahead and bring the caller on before I transfer into this. Caller, welcome to the program. How are you? What's on your mind?
Okay, I got two stories for you. One is from Inside Chaz, and the other one is, did you hear about the thousands of Black Lives Matter protesters gathered outside the Brooklyn Museum as Governor Cuomo threatened partygoers in the Hamptons, violating social distancing?
So they were partying a little too close in the Hamptons, huh?
Right. So you had, I guess it was Black Lives Matter, and so they gathered outside the Brooklyn Museum. So the protesters were shoulder to shoulder, not practicing social distancing. Meanwhile, Governor Cuomo threatened the restaurant and bar owners, police officers, and partygoers in Manhattan and the Hamptons who were violating the communist social distancing order. So Black Lives Matter and Antifa rioters just burned, looted, and pillaged New York City, but Cuomo is threatening partygoers in the Hamptons who dare violate the social distancing orders. The crooked Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance recently announced that the DA's office will not prosecute protest-related arrests in the interest of justice. But if the New Yorkers dare violate the social distancing orders while attending a party, they will be punished. So, I mean, it's pure Marxism. Anyways, they said they have received 25,000 complaints of reopening violations. That's what Cuomo said in the tweet. Bars or restaurants that violate the law can lose their liquor license. So Cuomo called out the party goers in the Hamptons. The violation complaints are predominantly from Manhattan and the Hamptons. Not that I care so much about the Hamptons. Lots of violations of social distancing, parties in the street, restaurants, and bars ignoring the laws. So he said, enforce the law or there'll be state action.
Oh, my. So what are they going to bring a National Guard down because you're partying a little too close? That is something else.
In the Hamptons, they're right. But
wow.
You can go ahead and you can demolish the museum. They don't care.
Wow.
It's okay. They're all there coast to coast. So here's the second story.
Okay.
So there's a little backstory on this. This person left their tent to go for a walk around the beautiful nation of Chad. So when they returned, their laptop was stolen, $400, food and supplies. What follows is priceless. And this was in a tweet. It says, time's up, mouth shut. This is who tweeted it. I appreciate the kind gesture this community has given me, but I'm afraid I don't have much supplies, necessities to last a week. I might be packing up to leave soon. So somebody responds, Moe's 91, please don't leave. We are stronger together. You don't exactly know what happened to your belongings, only that they vanished. So to say it is theft is not entirely fair. It could be that a disadvantaged resident was in greater need of the items than you, and that's what we are about as a community. I know it's hard to hear this, but treat it as an unplanned donation. You did good today. I'm proud of you. Some third party reading this
I
tweet,
always feel good about those unplanned donations. Wow.
So this third party also jumps in on the tweet and says, I like your logic. Your valuables get stolen, and you should see it as an unplanned donation. You people are so insane. That was the end of it. Well, there was a bad word in there.
What's worse? What are you going to do? I mean, you're going to live in the Hamptons or live in Chaz? Wow.
Yes. I'm telling you, both are utopias. Well, at least, nobody's going to feel sorry for the Hamptons, really. I mean, we got about, there's probably a lot of people who pulled themselves up from their bootstraps, earned enough income, was able to move to the Hamptons.
Those darned oppressive, those oppressive museums, they got to go, right? They are harmful to the community.
So I just thought I'd chime in with a few extra stories before you left that were kind of amusing coming out of the I don't know. I want to say government politicians and the responsible people, but I think they've all just everything's upside down. So
everything's upside down.
That's my
to be sure.
Call for the night.
Yeah, you should feel good about that contribution. Thank you so much for calling. Wow, awesome. So, as more evidence emerges on the role played by former President Barack Hussein Obama in directing Russiagate, President Trump's allies are leaving the field of battle. They seem not to want to hold Barack Obama responsible for what President Trump calls the biggest political crime in American history by far. Why do you think that is? Lindsey Graham and others, they just seem to be bailing right and left. They don't have the stomach for the fight. And this is all we need to know about whether top Republicans in the House and Senate and an attorney general nominated by Republican President Donald Trump are serious about getting to the bottom of Russiagate. Are they or are they not? Here's the thing. Why do you think all this burning is going on? Why do you think the windows are being smashed? No. You think it's racism. It's not. That's the propaganda. They're not mad because they're black. They're not mad because we're white. No, they're mad, and I am too, because of the lack of justice. What we have seen is that justice has been denied. And we know what happens when justice is denied. Okay, let me define it. Justice is equal protection under the law, which means equal prosecution under the law. You know, I look at President Trump, everyone else does too, and one of the things that you don't see around President Trump is a pile of bodies. You just don't. He's over 70 years old. He's been all over the world. He's changed skylines. He has 15,000 employees, 500 businesses, and no problems, no dead people, no anything. You look at Hillary Clinton, and there's a pile of bodies. People have been shot, they've been hung, they've been burned, they've been stabbed, they've been cut apart, they've been run over by cars, run over by trains, they've been drowned, they've just flat-ass disappeared, they've been raped, they've been battered, they've been strangled. Holy crap! A pile of bodies that stretches over 5 states and almost 5 decades. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It stretches all the way from Arkansas all the way to Chappaquiddick. This is the thing. We don't have equal protection under the law. We don't have equal prosecution under the law. This is crazy to see. The biggest crime that a U.S. president can commit is to try to defeat American democracy. And that's exactly what we see happening. Either by working with foreign powers to take it over, or else by working internally within America to sabotage the republic for his or her own personal reasons. That's treason. Whatever we are watching is turning out to be traces of a plot against a government elected by the American people. And that's absolutely true. Obama officials sabotaged the Trump administration. In a story that was published back in 2017, that law requires Trump to arrest those responsible and to put them on trial for treason and conspiracy to overthrow the government of the United States, is absolutely true. When Charm of Favor was written, it was written specifically for that reason. It was to bring awareness to the Clinton crime syndicate. We are now 3 years later. Graham, Nunes, Barr, they have not done anything, nothing, but just to talk and stare at cameras and be stern and catch people lying under oath. But nothing has been done to hold Obama personally responsible. They failed to provide Trump with a legal basis on which to accuse Obama and others with treasonous conduct. But the rest of us see it, and that's why things are burning. Things are burning because they see that there are people that should be behind bars, that should be wearing an orange jumpsuit, but instead they're riding around in a limo. Left-wingers, not beholden to the Democrat Party, are willing to admit the obvious. Okay, even author Branko Marcetic called the targeting of Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn a case of entrapment, and said the FBI even used outright false claims to obtain a FISA warrant to spy on former Trump campaign aide Carter Page. He concluded that the FBI and various U.S. government agencies engaged in prosecutorial overreach, entrapment, and the criminalization of foreign policy dissent in the case of Russiagate. Trying to appeal to traditional liberals, he notes the fact that the FBI's misconduct was aimed at a right-wing government this time should be no reason for Democrats to dismiss the magnitude of the scandal. Why is there so much eagerness to let Obama off the hook? These inside the Beltway politicians and commentators are afraid to use the word treason. They're failing the American people and their president. It's true. I'm going to cover a little bit more of this after the break. Don't go away. More at the bottom of the hour More X Squared Radio coming at you right after this.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
For 5,000 years, the world was ruled with wooden ships by one man. 242 years ago, a small group of free men crafted a new nation built on liberty and freedom. Global elites have been fighting to destroy this new nation called America ever since. Based on actual events, Charm of Favor tells a true story of how they corrupted the election system. They infiltrated federal agencies and murdered witnesses, judges, and even presidents to keep from being caught. Now, the largest and wealthiest crime syndicate the world has ever known has been drawn out of the shadows. They have killed hundreds of Americans and recently attempted to assassinate half our congressmen. Still, they escape arrest through an almost supernatural charm of favor. Read Charm of Favor and be prepared to open your eyes to what may lie just around the corner. Charm of Favor is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
I've been waiting for this moment since my first breath in. Never would have thought I'd be afraid to begin, but here I am, the edge of the water, wondering if I can swim. Never seem to notice all the days pass through, but in this final moment I'm still chasing the truth. I want an explanation why I can't stay here forever in my youth. And if I press on, will you wait? Will you wait for me forever? Or would it be wrong to ask you to come with? Tell me, will you wait?
Thanks for being here tonight with me. We're halfway through the program, At 10 o'clock, I have Pete Rivera coming on. He's going to talk to us a little bit about his creation, Revelation. In the meantime, I want to talk to you a little bit about time travel. If you have taken my class, Remembering the Future, the Physics of the Soul and Time Travel, it's my Manifestation Masterclass, you'll know a little bit about this story, maybe not to this detail because I don't cover it in full detail in the class. It's a 90-minute class on Saturday mornings. If you go to my website, brooksagnew.com, the link is right here below in the description of the YouTube. You can go to the mentoring link and you can sign up for the class. Believe it or not, time travel actually is possible. Yes, in fact, you're doing it right now. Every single second of every single day, you are advancing into your own future, 1 second at a time. You are literally moving through time the same way you would move through space. It may seem pedantic, but it is a very important point because you are the only creatures on the face of the earth that can perceive this. No other being, sentient or otherwise, on the earth perceives time. Only you. Movement through time is still movement, and you are reaching your own future, whether you like it or not. And what's even cooler is that you could skip forward in time if you feel like it. Well, let me be clear. You will need to do a little bit of engineering first. We know through the physics of Einstein's special theory of relativity that you can trade motion in space for motion in time. If you're standing perfectly still, you're moving through the dimension of time at a particular speed, the speed of light. For those of you who are curious, as soon as you start moving through space, however, you slow down your rate of movement through time. In other words, the faster you move in space, the slower you move in time. That's the relationship. They're on opposite sides of the equation. This means that moving objects like a clock on a rocket run a little bit slow. 1 second for someone in a moving spaceship lasts a little bit longer than a second for someone staying still relative to the ship. Nothing in space actually stays still. The trick is that in order for this to have any sort of noticeable impact, you have to get close to the speed of light, which is really hard to do. To give you some perspective, astronauts that orbit the Earth at tens of thousands of miles per hour are off by only a microsecond or so from our clocks on the ground. That's a millionth of a second. Our fastest human spacecraft don't even crack 0.1% of the speed of light. But if you could somehow spend a good amount of time hugging close to that ultimate speed limit in the universe, the slower your clock will run. You will travel through time into the future. Nothing will feel different for you, but after a couple of years' journey, you would return to Earth to find that our clocks advanced by thousands or even tens of thousands of years, depending on how fast you were traveling. So the future is yours, and you don't get to choose how quickly you reach it. What happens if we go much faster than the speed of light? Well, I don't mean your physical body, because according to all of our math that explains the relationship between mass and the speed of light, that would cause your body to expand to the size of the known universe. I have enough problems with body expansion without that. Humans are unique in one aspect, we believe. We are built of at least 2 distinct components. Yes, it's true. One of those is not from this dimension. It is spiritual, if you will. Some people call it mind. Some call it consciousness. Now, all living things have consciousness. Some humans are not conscious that they're conscious. Nevertheless, the conscious thought of a person can travel through space at much faster rates than light. Many, many experiments have been done where thoughts have been clocked at speeds 25 times the speed of light. And they're not blocked by such things as water or even space itself. One experiment was even done between Earth and the Moon in 1972. And that being said, getting validated data back from the future, not very easy. Handling the controls of even the most sophisticated thought amplifiers or viewers takes special skill and ability. Some of that ability may even be genetic. Seeing the future is just seeing one possibility. Seeing a path into that future is far more valuable. However, using that knowledge to alter that path, it's going to alter the future. The existence of America itself is proof that altering a path will change the future. No prophet, seer, or revelator ever saw America. Men read that future and simply chose another path. You can do the same thing with your life if you can learn the skills. And I can teach you some of those skills in my class if you would like. Many people dream of flying, but when you teach them to fly, they're not very good at it at first. The same goes with driving. And by the way, some people never get good at that. Choosing a future for community or the nation, it takes much more ability, much more power. Where do you think that power comes from? Well, I maintain it's a little thing called glory. I know you're thinking, glory, what a weird thing. I mean, I don't understand the principle of glory. That's okay. I get it. I understand that. Hang on one moment. The word glory is used 148 times in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. And from Deuteronomy to Malachi. Now, in the Old Testament, glory has entirely two unrelated meanings, and thus it describes two completely different ideas. It's true. Traditionally, glory is understood to mean praise for the Lord, right? And some examples I could give you in Joshua 7:19. Give glory to the Lord, God of Israel. 1 Chronicles 16:28 through 29. Give to the Lord glory and strength. Give to the Lord the glory of his name. Psalms, Jeremiah, Nehemiah, Isaiah. You know, in that day, the branch of the Lord will be beautiful and glorious. By the way, in that day, in Isaiah means the latter days. It means now, because Isaiah wrote in 3 different time zones. Interesting. While glory can indeed indicate praise, and it does, it's a limited vocabulary we have, a close study of its use in the Old Testament reveals an altogether different meaning, one that conveys the original understanding of its form and its function. One of those functions is a substance. The second meaning of glory is stunningly different from the praise for the Lord, the first definition we were talking about. As the following examples from Exodus and Leviticus seem to indicate, glory was a substance, and it was found in the cloud that settled on Mount Sinai and eventually on the tabernacle and the Ark of the Testimony during the Israelites' sojourn in the wilderness. I'm using these examples because we are actually talking about the word glory. Glory ostensibly comes from, the scriptures. So in Exodus chapter 16, verse 7, if you're keeping up, Moses to the Israelites in the wilderness, here's what he said. And in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord. And then in verse 10, he said, behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And then chapter 24, he says, and the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like consuming fire on top of the mountain before the eyes of the Israelites. And in chapter 33, let me see your glory. but he was not allowed to. And my glory is passing. I will put you in a cleft of the rock, and my palm will cover you during my passing. Exodus 40. Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle, and Moses was not able to come into the tent of meeting because the cloud dwelt on it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And then in Leviticus chapter 9, in connection with the need to first offer certain sacrifices to avoid the danger of the glory in the cloud. For today the Lord will appear to you, the thing you will do, then the glory of the Lord will appear to you. And then in chapter 20, verse 23 of the same chapter, when Moses and Aaron first went into the newly constructed tent of the meeting, they then came out and they blessed the people, and the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. Now, clearly, the radical shift of glory's original meaning, a substance, to the way it was defined as praise for the Lord raises several important questions. Why did the meaning shift? What was the purpose of this substance, and why did it seem to be so dangerous? Well, collecting glory for your time viewer or your future manifestation machine is not an easy thing to do. Gods and demons have been trying to do that for millennia. The discovery I've made is that it was once all in one place, but in order for it to expand, it must be divided up and allowed to become exalted on its own without interference. Because it existed in a multidimensional void at first, it had to divide through the process of square roots. This is my own discovery, and I share this with you in the class in detail. But I'm trying to stay within my time constraints here tonight, so I'm going to give you the 10,000-foot view of this. The mathematical process allowed large things, large numbers, to be divided up in a differentiation process to approach the value of 1. In other words, many, 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 many square roots. It never reaches 1 because it just gets very, very small changes relative to 1, but it doesn't reach 1. It means I could take half the distance to this wall, and then half the distance again, and half the distance again, and half the distance again. I would never actually reach the wall, but the distances would become very, very tiny in the end, right? It would be big at first and then very small. The vast majority of intelligences, these individual particles of glory, are nearly equal when they are created. That is a familiar concept to most of us, isn't it? Created equal opportunity. But what happens next is a little akin to watching a newborn. We have almost no capable control in the beginning, okay? You know all about this. We see this when we raise images in our own likeness. Although our systems of physiology are stunningly complex and advanced, within a dozen years, we have about 50% of our personality and almost all our talents are identified. What remains is what is called aptitude, okay? This is defined as a noun. It means capability, the ability, the innate or acquired capacity for something, a talent. She has a special aptitude for mathematics, readiness or quickness in learning, intelligence. He was placed in honors classes because of his general aptitude, the state or quality of being apt, physical fitness, special fitness. Few people are born knowing how to dribble a basketball or how to fly an airplane. Some people have a special affinity for it and maybe even a degree of innate skill, but when they practice at something, the level of proficiency can approach perfection. Each skill acquired becomes another degree of perfection. Rather, it is a segment of completion. God commanded his children to, in Matthew, therefore you shall be perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. Now, the interesting thing is that there's a Greek word for this because it was originally written in Greek. And the Greek word here for perfection is teleos. Okay, T-L-E-I-O-S, teleos. According to Strong's Concordance, the word perfect in this verse was derived from the Greek term teleos. Teleos is defined like this. And so just when you think that you can't please God because you've been taught by your religious tradition that you are filthy rags before him, there's this. Teleos is defined as complete in all its parts, full grown, of full age, especially of the completeness of Christian character. And going even further, Greek philosophers use the word teleos, which is translated perfect, in regards to something being in its intended function. Yeah, let that sink in for a minute, and then redefine it in your mind. What if being perfect really means being complete, full grown, and in my intended place? What if Jesus was not asking for sinless perfection after all? And remember the word sin. It's a term used in archery. It means to miss the target. It does not mean you're going to hell. It means you should try again. That process is called repentance. Not so bad, won't you think about it? When all these aspects are applied to viewing or preparing for or creating the future, it is a little more like being handed the small end of the bat and then going to the plate to hit the ball. It works far better than using the large end in your hands, which is a little bit like what we feel like when we've been handed the tools for a mortal life. We don't do so well. So how does this time travel work? How do you do this? Well, as I told you, each one of us have an individual glory. We have an individual intelligence address, a soul address in space and time, in the universe. It's unique to you. Only you have it. Now, it is a baby at first. You don't have a lot of capability. You can't do a lot of things. But that's okay. You're created somewhere at the value of 1. And as an individual, you can then acquire more aptitude through experience. That experience comes through primarily mortal lives. They're very short, but they're very intense. You get anywhere from 30 to 100 years. That's really not long in the space of time in the universe. That's about a snap of a solar cycle, right? Not very much. In the life of several billion years of a sun, it is nothing. But we get mortal lives. We could slow time down. We really, really can slow it down to a point that we can examine 1/10,000th of a second with our consciousness quite well. If we were traveling at the speed of light, that would go by so quick, so quick. It would seem like a second for us in space, but 100 years, thousands of years could go by here on Earth at that speed. We're able to slow the universe down so that we can behold it, so that we can become complete by experiencing all of the stresses and all of the challenges of mortal life. And during this experience, we can develop skills, strengths, overcome weaknesses. That's what it's about. That's what we do. Now, we're not the only ones in this game that know about this, because now you're being taught this on this program tonight. It's a small little microcosm of the class. But now that you know this, you're now aware of the effects that you have on the universe, because everything you do or don't do will eventually affect the universe. But there are others that are aware of this as well. Jesus is certainly aware of it, but he's not here, is he? I mean, he's not here, not here. He might be there, but he's not here. It could be here, but not there. Who's to say? Lucifer, on the other hand, he leads the show. He is the Lord of this world, small l, but he is ever present on this planet. And he could do a lot of things. He has great skills, eyes and ears everywhere, electronic ears and demon ears. But the one thing he cannot do is he cannot read your mind. Can't read your mind. As long as you don't open your mouth, he can't tell what you're thinking. Oh, he could tell you, because he's known you since forever. He's known you since before the world was made. He may know the way you're going to decide in every given situation. But not really, because you could surprise him. You could say, well, given this new knowledge, though, I think I'm going to make a different decision. I think I'm going to choose a different future. And that's very frustrating to him. You know, the third of the host of heaven is a lot of people. That's a lot of souls. It's more souls than are alive on the earth right now. I would say we have close to 7.8235 billion people on the planet right now, 8.326 billion people. Well, maybe a little more or less right there on the earth right now. But I'd say there's probably close to 50 billion demons on the earth. Yeah. And that, maybe it's less than that. We could say it's even 7 billion mortals alive on the earth. And what is a third of that of the third of host of heaven was cast out? 2.1 billion. 2.1 billion demons. Let's just make it easy. Who do you think those demons spend the time with? You think they're out there in the streets with those looters? Nah. You think they're in the country of Chaz? Not on your life. You think they're on death row, tormenting murderers? You think they're with rapists or people who are contemplating theft or graft or rape? No, not with them either. You know as well as I do where the demons are spending their time. They're spending their time on the righteous. They're spending their time and their assignments on people who are trying to do good. There are some people walking around this world with 1,000 demons on them all the time. All the time. When they're sleeping, when they're showering, when they're playing with their kids, when they're reading their Bible, those demons are on them. And they're looking, listening for any little quirk, any little thing that you're going to surf that you shouldn't surf. That's why I say control the eye, control the mind. You control the eye, you can control your mind. But you got to be controlled, you got to be awake, and you got to be aware all the time because the demons are there all the time and they're working on you. They're working to break you. They're working to make you choose their way. 2.1 billion demons when you have... No, there's more than 144,000 righteous people on the earth. I hope there are. My goodness. By the way, righteous just means those that are repenting. Those that are changing. Those that are taking aim again at the target. They don't give up on themselves. They keep going. Keep trying. Keep working on that aptitude. At 10 o'clock, I'm going to bring Pete Rivera on the program. We're going to talk a little bit about Revel Nation. I hope Skype behaves itself. It's been buggy all night. We rest so much on technology here. Bomar says, demons are spending their time selling Amway products. Well, it could be. It could be. I don't know. I could tell you there's a lot of Mormons out there with demons on them. There's a lot of Mennonites out there with demons on them. There's a lot of us with demons on us all the time. And we try to fight them off. Just try to be as strong as you can and one step in front of the other. So Pete and I will talk about Revel Nation. You're going to have your eyes open as to what private entrepreneurs are doing out there. Big things, big dreams, big things moving. And this ability for information to be spread on the university level and for small companies that are trying to get started to get a presence in the marketplace. It's a big, big thing that's missing in business today. Because as you know, all the social media, all the advertising space, all the newspapers, ever try to run an ad on Facebook? Crap, you better have a lot of money. It's about $100,000 a week to run an effective ad on Facebook. That's a lot of money. If you don't have that kind of money, you're not going to play in the Facebook game. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back at the top of the hour with Pete Rivera. Don't go away. More X Squared Radio coming at you right after these messages. And happy to come to you through the America Free Radio studios. See you in a few. All right, welcome back. Final hour, X Squared Radio tonight. We're still trying to add Pete. We're having some problems, of course, with Skype, and it's not working. So, wonderful. Don't you just love the wonders of technology? So, it doesn't look like we're going to have Pete on, not answering through the Skype. So I want to talk a little bit about the plan. A lot of people talk about, trust the plan, trust the plan. What is the plan? I don't know if the good guys have a plan. I'm not convinced there is one. But the other side does definitely have a plan. The global media empire would have you believe that these riots, they're all organic. They just spring up out of a rage that poor people feel about rich people, or black people feel about white people, or whatever. And that is actually not true. It is by design. And you would choke if you knew how much money is spent to make these riots happen. They also do not ever spend a single dime to rebuild what they burned down. It takes a gay volunteer to lead a group to clean it up, and then he is called a racist. The truth is that the entire riot process was designed by Richard Andrew Cloward and Francis Fox Piven. These are two names that are largely unfamiliar to the average American, but their historical relevance is being seen all over the country today as we watch the riots ensue. The Cloward-Piven strategy, we also know it as the plan. It's well known among modern-day Democrat socialists. These two individuals have long been members of the Democrat Socialists of America. This strategy has origins all the way back to 1965, when there were riots in Los Angeles that started after LAPD officers attempted to subdue a man that was suspected of drunk driving using batons. In 1966, Cloward and Piven produced an article. It was called "The Weight of the Poor, a Strategy to End Poverty." I have the link in my notes. You can always access my notes by going to my website at americafreeradio.com. Right there on the front, it says TFR Show Preparation Notes. That's all you have to do is click on that, and you'll have the entire calendar for the whole year. You just click on the calendar date that you heard the broadcast. This would be June 14th of 2020, and you can open the notes and read to your heart's content all the 50 or so pages that I use every week to create this program, and all of the links that I use as research. This book was published May 2nd, 1966, in a magazine called The Nation. After tens of thousands of reprints, many recognize this work as the strategy that they're using to this very day. The Cloward-Piven strategy made an argument that the elite ruling class was subduing the poor through a welfare system that kept those on the lower end of the socioeconomic ladder in check through appeasement. The rationale was then used in this article, and it was that oligarchs avoided rebellion by the poor through implementation of an economic safety net. You've heard that, right? What is the safety net? And that's going on to this very day. They have what I call a inner city plantation. And on this inner city plantation, they have enslaved black people and minorities and poor people who are trapped in these plantations. And the only thing they grow in this plantation is votes. That's all they grow. The case to be made here was that the poor would only see progress when society was afraid of them. The plan, their plan, was to overload the system so that the system collapsed, and then opens the door to installment of a totalitarian regime to control the masses. This strategy was conceived with an inherent hatred for capitalism and the desire to collapse our economic system. As you know, under Donald Trump, the system was growing by leaps and bounds. And it was actually reaching into the inner city, and it was pulling them up as well. Things were happening in the inner city that had not happened for 100 years. We saw stores opening. We saw savings accounts. We saw investment. We saw inner city businesses begin to open spaces that have been closed for a long, long time, even in cities like Chicago. And what we saw were regulations and things that were trapping these people in these plantations moved out of the way. People could then either move into the suburbs or they could clean up their own inner cities. The lights came back on. The tax money started flowing again. People were beginning to progress. Locals were able to shop in local stores. And that was just in 3 years. Well, according to this plan, none of that was to be allowed. Just could not allow the inner city to try to pull itself out. Just not going to happen. So it was through the use of this plan that they went back in and they burned the inner city to the ground. You saw they burning Wendy's, they burn Targets, they burn Amazon, they burn whatever they can that looks like it's making progress. They want to burn to the ground. Smash it, loot it, and make sure that those jobs and those shopping opportunities or learning opportunities disappear from those communities. Saul Alinsky was an inspiration for many early Cloward Piven advocates. Alinsky authored Rules for Radicals. I do not recommend reading it. If you read it, you're going to have demons on you because it was demons that wrote it. I don't recommend reading this book. Don't read it just to open your mind and see what's going on. It will corrupt you. A work that has inspired leftist revolutionaries for decades. Hillary Clinton was also very partial to this work by Saul Alinsky. She wrote her thesis for the university for her degree using ideology and concepts from this book. Alinsky was introduced to Hillary by a Methodist pastor that had befriended her and started pointing her in a direction that led her away from her conservative beliefs at the time. Hillary gravitated to the dark side and became more powerful than Emperor Palpatine. Alinsky's background takes us all the way back to Chicago in the age of Prohibition as he rode along with Al Capone's bagman. Learning the ropes from the professionals, Alinsky took what he learned and formed his own qualities as an agitator, but chose to do so through strategic placement of individuals in positions of authority in government, inside government, to take control of it from the inside. This is a very effective strategy, and it has worked for the last 40 years. From inside the agencies, the departments, the bureaus, and the administrations was the easiest thing in the world. There's plenty of power. There's plenty of protection to carry out the mission well, inside the body. All right, let's see what I can see here. Well, let's see if I can add, we'll go to another way here and see if we can add Pete Rivera now that he's got a, we love technology, but we hate technology. Well, there's a whole bunch of them now. Wow. Let's see here. It's interesting now that I see there's about 16 of these Pete Riveras. I don't know which one is his because it doesn't really have his true address on there. So we can't make it out. We just can't figure it out. Let's see. I've been handed something. No, can't do that. I suppose I could have him try to call in on the caller line at TFR instead of trying to add him because Skype is not working. Why don't you, if you're listening, Pete, call the caller line and we'll just add you that way. It's 213-233-3998. 213-233-3998. And we'll just not use Skype tonight to add a guest. It's believe it or not, us podcasters, it's the only option left to us. If you're going to take calls, it's the only way to do it. Hate it, but it is what it is. It's the only available platform available to podcasters. It used to work really well. Skype was a great company. It had a great product and is absolutely turned to crap. It's just crap. Nobody can use it. Everyone hates it. But it is the only thing available to us. So it is what it is. So there's my anti-endorsement of Skype. You can stick it. All right. Vaccines. We try not to use the V word too much because the algorithms look for it. But I just want to make something clear. It's very important. Vaccine or no vaccine, America is back. President Trump gave a very, very good address from the Rose Garden the other day. He said, we're starting the process, and in many cases, they don't have vaccines, and a virus or a flu comes, and you fight through it. We haven't seen anything like this in 100 and some odd years. Yeah, well, I can't do that, Pete. I cannot accept the call because if I accept the call, it puts my studio on hold. So it doesn't work. No, Pete, you have to call 213-233-3998. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the text here for you. All right? And that way, since you're not watching on YouTube, you don't know this. 213-233-3998. Okay? If you call this number, then I can add you to the program. If you call that number, I will add you to the program that way. Pete Rivera. You know, we're in the technology business, more or less. We go out to millions of people all around the world using technology. And you know, as modern and great as this technology is, it is so bad. It's so bad. And it's bad for podcasters for sure. But it's really bad for universities. All right, he's on now. Let's bring him on. Pete, welcome to the program. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Just Brooks, how are you, my good brother?
I'm good. We were just talking about the wonders of technology and how great it's been and how terrible it is. I mean, look at the struggles that we've had tonight. Windows updates and it wipes out my broadcasting software. I have to reset it live while I'm on the air. I'm trying to add you by Skype, which should be the most elementary thing in the world, but Skype is such a screwed up platform that it's messed all the podcasters up and continually changes its game all the time to make it challenging for us. But what you're doing is going to make it so much simpler for universities to be able to communicate one to another. It is horrendously complex for universities to reach prospects, to get their curricula out there to make themselves have a presence in a serious way on social media. How, I mean, you're creating a new company. Tell us about your company and how you solve these problems.
Absolutely, Brooks. You know, this is a monster of a problem to tackle. And to my knowledge, nobody's really tackling the problem to the degree that we've decided to grab this bull by the horns. And so what we're doing is we're going to go ahead and go after all of academia. We're putting all of the public schools, private schools, home schools, as well as the community colleges, HBCUs, and universities all on the same platform. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to tie in all of the media outlets through one basic pipeline. And we're going to make it so that it's seamless and easy to use, where we have a dedicated channel and a dedicated pipeline to every single individual school that's out there. So if you are an elementary school in North Dakota, you have every bit of the same platform capabilities of broadcasting and connecting through our platform as a major university, like, let's say, a private university like Duke University. You'd be on the exact same level, exact same playing field. You have the exact same tools and the exact same, home screen and, entry and interface to our platform. So we are going to literally level the playing field by giving this to academia for free to every single individual school entity out there, or even mother who's homeschooling their child. And, someone had to jump in this game and, unify academia and level the playing field and give everyone the exact same tools on steroids, if you will, with the latest and greatest technology that we just heard back from and I'm very happy to say this, Brooks, I'm very happy to say that our patent attorneys and law firm just came back. We have 13 patent pendings on our technology, on our exact method to unify academia. We have 13 patent pendings that are coming down the pipeline. So we're doing a whole different platform that currently does not exist, that's dedicated with the right digital media and the bandwidth and the space that is secured for all of academia to use. And one day soon, as soon as our attorneys allow for us to share with the world how it is we're going about it differently, I'd be more than happy to do that. But for right now, I've got to be a little tight-lipped about our sources, systems, and methods. But I can tell you with the utmost confidence that I am excited to unify all of academia with the latest and greatest in all of technology that's made available to us to date.
Well, I think that is so cool because, we don't really need to know the nuts and bolts or how this is done really, or what the secret is behind it. But the main thing that we want to make clear is that for all the technology that's available, it is largely controlled only by the tech giants. Google has a platform that you can share documents with, but they control everything. And the universities, they have their own proprietary curricula. They have sports agendas. They have training manuals and things like that. They don't want all this stuff on Google. Google will just hack it and it'll be in China before you know it. These universities still want to control their own data, but they want to have a platform by which they can reach just their market. They don't want this information going to, Russia or going to South America. What they want is this information going to people that would enroll in their university. Likewise, homeschooling parents want to protect the privacy of their own family, their own kids, their own data, but they still want access to the greatest educational curricula and classwork that they can get their hands on. Because, face it, homeschooling parents, they're not professional teachers. Many of them don't even have degrees. And yet, consistently, their kids come through homeschooling performing better on the standardized tests than government-schooled kids. It's because of the availability of this information. And what's missing is a streaming satellite network, something that will make this fast and available and standardized for everybody across the board. This is the big weakness on the university level, right?
Absolutely. And so you nailed it, Brooks. You nailed it right on the head. Everybody has self-serving interests that they view their institution as competition to the next. Therefore, no one's really willing to level the playing field, because the ones that feel that they have a larger market share, more students going to their actual school or university, they don't want to give up their leverage in their own marketing campaigns and exposure and tools and being acclaimed as being the best in certain programs or curriculums. Well, that might be good for that one institution, but it's not good for all of academia. So here comes Rebel Nation, and what Rebel U is going to offer is we're going to be that perfect hybrid of exactly what you just explained, and you did it so eloquently. Kudos to you. Basically, Brooks, we're going to be a hybrid of public and private information with security systems and firewalls in place, so that all the private communique and all of the information that is to remain completely secured will indeed, be protected, and the integrity of that information will never be leaked or never be breached or never be reached by those even trying to get it. Hopefully, our firewall systems are so above reproach that we maintain the integrity of the curriculums per educational institution. However, the hybrid comes in when they do want the public broadcast, when they do want the public streaming, when they do want the big media masses and the numbers to spike on certain highlighted features, whether it's a school play, whether it's an art show with graduating art students, or basically design work. We can bring that actual live streamed event on that campus to the masses for every grandma, grandpa, relative, friend, family member that can't make it to campus for the actual event. They now just simply get to dial in, be part of it, totally experience it live with them, and have that information share and experience share. So we will be a complete perfect hybrid, if you will, of public-private information of academia, of live events, of live stream classes, curriculums, head-to-head, side-by-side comparisons. Not only do we do side-by-side comparisons on curriculums and rank all the curriculums nationwide per, high school and per university and community college, we also incorporate trade schools. There's a lot of hairstyling, different trades, mechanic shops, working on motorcycles. These are very niche trade schools that do not need to fall to the wayside. HVAC programs, electrical engineering programs. These trade schools are equally as important to driving our mechanisms, our economic pillars of strength in our economy, because we have to have these careers and jobs, keeping our, nation moving forward in the regards of having these working trades. So
and
we will not turn a blind eye to.
Well, what really blows my mind.
Go right ahead.
What really blows my mind here is that you've been working on this for a couple of years, and I know that late last year we had a get-together, a small fundraiser there in Raleigh that I was privileged to attend with Muhammad Ali's former wife, and it was a wonderful event, and all these pieces began to come together. But what I found was how prophetic you were in having this vision and putting this company together, because we assumed that we would be able to go through life all meeting in large groups and having, big classrooms and big training sessions and big lectures. And now we have a situation where we have to do all this remotely, and we don't have the infrastructure set up to do it. You guys are so far ahead of the game.
Correct.
And you're not just working in academia. You're also working in the entertainment world as well. Tell us how that's going.
Absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. So my running joke is, man, we were years ahead of the curve, and one pandemic later, we're behind the 8 ball. So, you nailed it as far as sense of urgency and bringing all of this to the market. So it's a catch-22. The pandemic definitely exposed us and our need for this platform for sure. And what's really neat about the entertainment industry is this is where I pull in the masterclass series. So, we're in talks with a lot of icons. I'm just going to give you some examples. So, wouldn't it be great for Tiger Woods to come up and show us all how to hit that perfect long drive? Wouldn't it be great for, I don't know, Tom Brady to do a little seminar masterclass on how to do a 3-step pass, drop back, and throw a perfect spiral? Wouldn't it be great to learn IT and AI through our own IT company with the Emmets of the world? Amitabh Mandal, who you met, who, by the way, thought the world of you, and wants to speak with you more, by the way. And I told him, let's give Brooke some time real quick before we circle back around. But, Amitabh Mandal has a company called Infinite Financial Services, and the IT company is now our sister company. We've interwoven and merged. So we're now primarily just an IT company with a high entertainment background. And so we just picked out our film studios. We're going to do everything for live streaming, everything for television, film, feature film, other streaming networks like Netflix, Amazon, Epix. We are going to knock it out of the park with music production, music video production, which we're going to change the culture on music videos and them being called music videos. We're going to start a movement where they're going to be short films. And then we're going into the gaming industry as well with some big gaming contracts for not just console gaming, but download gaming for iOS and Droid.
Wow.
We are heavy on all that entertainment media.
Just as the pandemic shuts down Hollywood and we're not able to create a venue to bring forth new content, a new venue springs up. Hang with us through the break, Pete. We'll be right back in about 3 minutes. Don't go away. More America Free Radio coming at you right after these messages.
Creating the truth frequency.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to America Free Radio. Final segment tonight. My guest tonight is Pete Rivera. He's the founder of Revel Nation. Interestingly enough, 2020 was shaping up to be an outstanding year for people like me. We're professional public speakers. We go out, and it takes us a long, long time to book up events and a schedule, buy plane tickets and hotels and ship books and make arrangements to go speak to hundreds and hundreds of people all around the country to tell them our story and sell books and shake hands and try to make people aware. Well, no sooner did we have our first event in January, everything was off on a good roll. We were selling books well. People were excited about our subject, remembering the future, the physics of the soul and time travel, and boom, the entire 2020 season was hosed. Every single event was canceled. Thousands and thousands of people did not get the chance to hear that lecture. So what did I do? I adapted along with everybody else. I created webinars so that I could put my 90-minute lecture as close as I could to the stage presence and the stage presentation online to try to bring it to people at a fraction the cost of them going to a convention. Normally, they would spend anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to go to a convention to hear me speak. Not that I would get the money. There's sometimes 20 or 30 different presenters. We don't even get paid to speak. We just get, sell our books and stuff like that, and we maybe get paid for a workshop here and there, but everything else is out of our pocket. It's very expensive marketing for our books and our classes. But none of that happened. We maybe had, in the entire year, it's already June, I maybe have had 30 students. I would have already spoken to perhaps 6,000 people by now if I went live. The point is, there's no venue. Finding places to speak is the hardest thing. It takes years to build that database, years to break into it, to get to the audience. These venues are the best kept secrets on planet Earth. I don't even know how they get people to come to them. Some of them don't. Went to one in New Mexico, didn't have a single person show up. Why? Because the people that put on the event kept it secret. They didn't do any marketing. They didn't tell anybody that they were having it. So all the speakers showed up and we spoke to each other. It was terrible, but it was very typical of what's going on in the industry. The industry has changed. One man saw this coming and began putting that infrastructure in place so that people like me, with a message and a lesson, something that's groundbreaking, something that will help people become much more successful and be able to create whole industries, not just get a job. One man is able to create that, and that is Pete Rivera, and he's on my program right now. Pete, what do you think about the way the world is changing, and what kind of opportunity this kind of technology gives to the world?
Absolutely, Brooks. Thank you for asking. Well, just like 9/11, the world was forever changed. We had to put in new systems, sources, methods, platforms, because we did not want a reoccurrence of 9/11. So here comes ushering in this pandemic. And this pandemic is indeed forever going to change the way that we move forward. That having been said, on the news, we're always hearing this term, the new normal, which I personally don't subscribe to. And I don't like the term, but it is a reality. And so with that does come the new need, the new imposition, if you will, for all of us to properly react and be proactive with the new technology of how to have a hybrid system of meeting face-to-face as well as through virtual meetings. So you have to have a hybrid system where you are at the very least incorporating both. And we're going to see as time progresses what kind of sliding scale that looks like. The supply and demand in regards to the COVID and how the circles and pockets of infected areas rise, how it definitely affects the sliding scale. And that having been said, we just have to embrace this new era that we're walking into with our best proactive minds to try to get out in front of it. And yes, the running joke is indeed, and I'll repeat it, we're years ahead of the curve, and then in one pandemic later, we're behind the 8 ball. So that having been said, we just have to embrace this new era with the best technology we can to have a hybrid mentality of meeting in pockets of in person wherever we can, as well as, having virtual meetings that bring together those pockets of people in whatever the common interest or common subject meeting gathering is at hand. So what I think of it, I think we have no choice but to adapt. And, we're resilient. I think Homo sapiens, the human race, is resilient. I have faith. I have faith in people like you, Brooks. You give me hope. You have a great voice and a great message. I've always been a believer in your Confederation of States, a believer in your willpower to make the place, the world a better place. And we just have, in that limelight and in that spirit, we just have to push through.
Well, that's, basically what it boils down to. But, the infrastructure, the ability to put this stuff together has kind of been done. And we got Zoom, and there are other platforms that are making money selling people subscriptions, $14, $15, $90 a month, whatever it is, for people to come together and try to meet like this. But that doesn't necessarily, that means they have to create still everything on their own. They have to create the template. They have to create the platform. They have to have a place to store their content so that they can stream it without it, crashing their home computer or their home server. Because face it, if 400 people are watching the same video, it would smash most computers. They wouldn't be able to handle it. Most people put it up to YouTube, and we already know what YouTube's been doing to that content. So there isn't really a way for people to create a curriculum. I can put some videos up of things that I've done, some MP4s, but I have to put them on YouTube if anybody's going to see any kind of volume. Otherwise, it would crash my server. You create
absolutely
a system where it can happen. And that's the big difference.
Let me jump in here, Brooks. Let me speak. Yes, and so number one, we're giving away the platform to all of academia, all the users, all the schools, all of the administration, all the faculty, all the coaches for free. It will never cost any of them a dime. We're taking the social media approach where everyone simply gets on there, creates their own profile. They get full access to the platform 100%. We are absorbing those monthly streaming costs. So the streaming cost per month is exorbitant, to say the least. But we have budgeted in, and we decided that this is our closest thing to a free education as we can come to, as far as what we can influence and implement ourselves. And that having been said, yes, we will carve off. We will definitely surgically carve off a big subsect of YouTube subscribers and YouTube users in these regards. YouTube has already, Brooks, dumped a lot of children's content, and they are refusing to monetize children's content because it's not serving their needs and their interests. So therefore, it's perfect timing for us, because all we care about is, the children's content all the way up through grad school. And as far as entertainment content, that's clean, void of cyberbullying, offering a social media platform along with this platform that is free and void of illicit behavior and free and void of cyberbullying, and, something that all of academia and every PTA could embrace and wrap their arms around as far as the culture. And we even foster entrepreneurial spirit in these 11, 12, 13-year-olds, empowering them to buy, sell, trade on our form of Etsy in this platform. We empower them to think like an entrepreneur and make money and pay their own way through school if they're in college. We give them the platform to not even, we have our own version of Ticketmaster or Eventbrite, where we encourage them to have that entrepreneurial spirit while they're a student and learn about promoting an event, selling tickets to their event, selling products at their event, and really embracing that practical application of not only just being a student, but also being an entrepreneur, making money and learning the true value of a dollar versus just having handouts. So yes, we are going to be in the trenches, totally, providing all of these things inside of our platform. It's a monster of a platform. And we're excited to bring it. And YouTube's not interested in having these people on their platform. So you know what? We'll fill that gap.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. When I talk to my friends who are in the similar business that I'm at, they're professional speakers and they've created their own content, and they are also put out of business this year. All of the events that they were going to speak at were canceled as well. They don't have a venue to go out. Though they may have some YouTube subscribers, but that is the only venue. There's no place else that they can go where they can get exposure to a market. They can't, when people are trying to find them, they're invisible. They don't show up in Google. They don't show up in YouTube. You can put my name in YouTube and you won't see half the stuff that I've done because YouTube doesn't link it that way. And it's difficult to find. That's why, people that have been on the YouTube less time than me have 300, 400,000 subscribers. I have about 6,000. It's a big deal not knowing how to negotiate this technical minefield. What Revel Nation is going to do is make that possible, because you're going to give the content providers. See, YouTube thinks it's the content provider. It isn't. It is only the platform. It's deciding what gets to show on its platform or not show on its platform. What you've done is you've created a universal system, and you've gone to the content providers themselves, the universities, the sports teams, Las Vegas, Hollywood, all of the Netflix, Amazon. You've gone to the actual providers of this content, and you're providing them an access. And that's where the market's going to go. There's no question about it.
Well said, Brooks. And, it's a neat and challenging times that we're definitely morphing into. Studios all throughout Hollywood are having to adapt to the fact that, you know, movie theaters are no longer going to be the largest revenue making outlet for them. They now have to switch over to streaming. And you're right, the market, you know, you can Google it, you'll see all these articles how the big studios are already having to make that adaptation, because the market is definitely changing from this, you know, big box outlet of a movie theater to go see product that's produced in these, you know, big, huge studio production houses. And they're now having to adapt, where in the old days they would snub their nose at even television studios.
Yep.
And that, you know, they figured they were the bad boys on MGM and Laura Marr and, you know, Paramount and whatnot, and all the early boys, and all that's been changed. The market changed. You know, supply and demand has changed, and you have to adapt. And, you know, all I can say is it's going to be an interesting thing to witness. We will learn, and we will take advantage of how this market changes, bringing the very best platform imaginable to the end users. And in my opinion, if we do not change academia now, if we do not figure out, which we figured out, how to have that perfect hybrid of on-campus and off-campus schooling system with the curriculums and the tie-ins and the exposure and the accessibility. And if somebody doesn't carry the weight and carry that torch of expenditure above and beyond students and schools, I do believe that we're going to have a huge communication gap. And, you know, we have to, you know, fill that void, and we have to make it, you know, accessible, usable, and free for these students. And so the game plan is to simply furlough that exposure and that cost over to corporate America. You know, Monster Energy drink, Nike, Adidas. You know, everybody needs a forum to hit this demographic of 13 to 23-year-olds that are on the forum and that are really, you know, on this academic platform, and they're all consumers, and they tell mom, I want to go shopping. I want new shoes. I want new clothes. I want this energy drink, et cetera, et cetera. And they'll end up, you know, eventually, hopefully, we won't have to carry the bill too long and carry the expenditure too long before we can furlough those costs with some advertising.
Well, here's what people are noticing. You say the market is changing, it's adapting. Yes, the market is getting very intelligent, very savvy. One of the things that they notice is once the theaters went away, we can no longer sit in a theater to eat popcorn at $18 or whatever popcorn costs these days and watch a movie. We now have to go to places like Netflix or Disney or Amazon to watch. Those venues, what they did primarily to get started is they bought old TV and movie content, and then they've saved it on their server and they let people watch it. What they did not calculate is that once this pandemic happened, that's exactly what everybody did. They stayed home and they watched all the content. Netflix and Amazon and Disney, they could not keep up because they weren't set up to do it. They can't keep up with the creation of new content. Once their old content is all watched up, they're broke. Netflix has a terminal business plan. It cannot survive. It is impossible for it to survive. They can't survive making 4 or 5 or 6 movies a year. It's never going to happen. Let's look at Hollywood. If you look at Hollywood, where does all the money come from to make movies? There's no shortage of screenwriters, I'll tell you that. They wrap around the block 6 times. You can't get anything made because the money comes from China, the CIA, or DARPA. So what kind of films are you going to get? You're going to get propaganda films. You're going to get films that steer you in a certain direction. Well, like I said, the market is getting smarter. They're getting more savvy, and they don't want to be steered. They want what they want. They want to see Christian films. They want to see films where the good guy wins. They don't want to see the LGBTQ agenda on their screen all the time. They want to see something else. There is no choice. What you're doing, Pete, is you're going to offer people the only choice in the world. And people are going to choose it.
Amen, Brooks. Thank you for saying that. And that's the game plan, that's the vision, and that's the drive, So all of this vision comes through meditation and, just being plugged in and dialed in with the good vibes and the good frequency and energy. And that's exactly the choice we're going to bring. Stuff that's procreation of life, with love and respect at the forefront of most of the media. No more shoot 'em up, bang 'em up, slap this, smoke that, etc. So, too much, just division and demise in the media. And people aren't realizing that all that intake, all that media that people are absorbing is corrupting their soul. And, it's just, we're tired of it. It's time for some good vibrational media, some feel-good stuff that really pumps us up with creating goodwill and just more importantly, just procreation and respect for all life. So, yes, we are bringing that choice, and yes, that is going to be at the forefront of everything that we say and do. So thank you for that.
Well, and it goes beyond the entertainment as well. You mentioned shopping. One of the things that I'm painfully aware of is when you shop on Amazon, a lot of that stuff looks good. It looks like a set of Amazon or Craftsman screwdrivers. It looks like a DOT certified helmet. It looks like the product that you want to buy. Every bit of it comes from China. I'm looking at you, or looking at the YouTube community right now through a digital camera. It's my fourth one in 5 weeks because the first 4 were absolute crap. They all came from China, and they were all junk right out of the box. Blurry, out of sync, of glitching, all kinds of color problems. This is the first one that worked. 1 out of 5. That's it. And that's the kind of quality that you get out of China. Everything is junk. What people want is access to American companies. You can't hardly find an American company on Amazon. You can't hardly find an American company on Amazon. That's not going to be so on Revel Nation.
Absolutely, you're correct. So we have a drive and a push. Thank you for that segue. We want to encourage and foster American entrepreneurs to get into the manufacturing game. And we can compete, Americans for Americans. And we can, with the right platforms in place, the right marketing, the right exposure, support small production companies or even individuals to, just like Etsy does, low production stuff from, mom and pop kitchen tables, garages, etc., to sell low production things on a platform and tell their story of the passion, of the labor of love behind the hands, of the American ingenuity that came up with the next widget, the next post-it, the next, phone charger, whatever. And so the tech space, China does dominate. The tech space is very, very dominated by China. However, if we collectively set forth the foundation now to start competing in those spaces with some government incentives and funding for these kind of manufacturing companies to be set up now, which the current administration is in favor of and has pulled out a signal and made the call, and then you have the right market exposure and platform singing the praises of these new companies and the new products of Americans supporting Americans and buying from America. We can cut into the current market trend, and it's going to take some time. I'm a fan of the tariffs against China myself. I'm a fan of what Trump has done in those regards, and I think those are steps in the right direction. Now we have to have the platform push it, where we are truly highlighting some American products that are not easily found because of lack of marketing. And so you're correct in that regard. We are going to highlight and expose American-made products through our fostering of the next generation of young, ingenuitive entrepreneurs. And our security, we have security cameras with body thermal imaging that will be hitting the market from the United States versus China. We have a lot of tech things on our end that we're putting, like the Rebel Ear. So we're working with Marty Garcia and Future Sonics, who custom fit John Legend, Elton John. He's actually one of Elton John's business partners. He's coming on board we're having a big tech segment. As a matter of fact, Brooks, when you come tour our facilities, I think you're going to be very encouraged and proud of us for the tech segment of our campus, where we do have this cutting edge custom ear monitor technology manufactured right here out of our own studios.
Yeah.
Nationwide. And so, and you are an ingenuitive, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you know this, but Brooks Agnew created, designed, implemented, and formatted an entire electric truck from scratch. I'm so proud of you for that, Brooks. I don't know if I'm telling on you or not, but I'm very proud of you for that.
I appreciate that.
So our minds, our collective, the American ingenuitive story is not dead. We will be resurrected, and it's time for us to have another industrial age of manufacturing right here in the United States. We need to start with energy, furlough over to, manufacturing, and we have to somehow figure out, not just in the tech space, but China dominates the pharma space for us, for all of our, over-the-counter drugs, and we have to take back these dependencies from China back to the United States.
This is how it's done.
We can do it, but
this is how it's done. By the way, if you're ever in Raleigh, North Carolina, make sure to check out one of Pete's affiliates called Plus Piano Bar. It's a great place to go. They're associated with Joel Givens, who's a magnificent magician and mentalist. He's an amazing person. I've met him several times. Super, super good trainer. Wake Up America with Christina Lynn, Mama Ali, as I already described to you earlier, and there's much, much more about this winner that I'm have a pleasure to be associated with, and I appreciate you very much for coming on the program tonight.
Oh, thank you so much, Brooks, for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure, and the pleasure is all mine.
All right. You have a wonderful week. We'll be in touch another time. Listen.
Please do. I'm counting on it.
All right. Thanks, Pete. One of the things I need you to do, Earth Explorers, I need you to go out and look for the good in one another and help it to grow a little bit every day. And before long, you will have saved the planet. This is America Free Radio, and I spend my time 18 hours a week working with you on this program, trying to be give you as good a content as I can live every single week on Wednesdays, on Mondays with Quantum Connections with Lucky, and on Sundays with America Free Radio. It's my pleasure to have you here every single episode, and please click the like button, share it with your friends and your family. It's a family-friendly program as much as it can be, and we'll see you on Wednesday on America Free Radio. This is Brooks Agnew saying, peace, Earth Explorers.